Hello students, welcome to Vedanta IAS Academy YouTube channel. This is Current Affairs Today video series, and in this video series we bring up all the important current affairs on daily basis. Today is 11th October 2022, and in this video we will be discussing about all the articles that are important and published on 11th October. So what is special about 11th October? This day is celebrated as International Day of Girl Child throughout the world. Why this is celebrated? So in 1995, there was a World Conference on Women, and nearly 30,000 people from 200 countries, all of them arrived and gathered at Beijing in China. And for what they have been visited there, or for what was the reason? So it was Conference on Women, discussion on rights of women were discussed over there. And this was fourth such World Conference. That means before this, 3 huge World Conferences were held with so many number of people. And finally, in 2011, United Nations declared October 11th as International Day of Girl Child. And since then, on 11th October, every day it is celebrated as International Day of Girl Child throughout the world, right? Now let's see what are the topics that we are going to cover in today's video. The first topic would be how China reduced poverty and what lessons India should learn from it. Next topic is online gaming and regulations. We'll be learning about all the regulations, why it is required and all. Next topic is Global Forest Sector Outlook Report 2050, and our last topic would be Rajasthan International Folk Festival. Before starting with the topic, I would insist you to please like, share and subscribe Vedanta IAS Academy YouTube channel. Along with this, you can follow our other social media platforms like Facebook, LinkedIn and Instagram, right? And please don't forget to press the bell icon to get a regular notification on time of all our videos. Now let's start with the very first topic, how China reduced poverty and what lessons India should learn from it. This is part of GS Paper 3 Economy. Let's see what is there in news. So last week, World Bank released its latest report on global poverty. And what they state over there, it was mentioned that due to COVID pandemic and war in Ukraine, we know there was COVID in the last few years, and currently Ukraine and Russia war is going on. Because of these two conditions, the poverty reduction has been reversed. That means generally what was happening, the poverty was reducing. Like if you see a graph, poverty level was continuously reducing. But because of these two conditions, it started increasing. That means reversal of poverty reduction. Now there is a definition of World Bank for extreme poverty. Here it is mentioned that anyone living less than $2.15. If we convert this into Indian rupees, this would be around 177.16 rupees according to current rate. It may fluctuate or change from time to time, but currently in today's date, it is 177.16 rupees, right? And if anyone is living less than for this money, that means if any individual is not earning money less than that, or if they're not earning amount equal to this, they would be living in extreme poverty condition. And the numbers, there are 648 million people globally who are currently in this situation. It was in 2019. That means the data of 2019 has been considered over here. Now we talk about the first international poverty line. So this is a kind of line, like if any individual is earning less than $2.15 a day, they are living in extreme poverty condition. The international poverty line was drawn first, and in 1999 a single line was used, $1 a day. Later on in 1993 it was raised to $1.08. In 2005 it was raised to $1.25, and in 2011 it was raised to $1.90. Finally, 2017 it was raised to $2.1, and currently it still goes on the same. And according to World Bank report, India is a country with highest number of poor people, and there sum to around 5 crores. This is data of 2020. That means India has the highest number of poor people living in the country, right? Now, what is poverty level in China and what are the few stats over there? After watching the stats, we'll see how they were able to reduce poverty in the country. So according to World Bank, they found that between 1978 and 2019, China lifted around 765 million. That means 76.5 crore people from extreme poverty in last 40 years. So this is the tenure. That means in 40 years, China has eradicated its poverty for 765 million its population. Before this tenure, all these people living in extreme poverty condition. And in 2021, China declared that it has eradicated extreme poverty completely. That means there are no people who are living in extreme poverty condition in China from 2021. And how it could be possible? So over here, there are 2 factors that are responsible for this, like life expectancy at birth. It increased from 60 years to 77 years. Like in 1978, people on average used to live only for 66 years. But after 1978, in 2019, it has been increased up to 77 years. Infant mortality rate, it dropped from 52 to 6.8%. Like out of 100 kids, 52% usually died. But in 2019, only 6.8% died during infant period. Now, there are certain periods of human life, like if we talk about certain levels, there is a time of conception. Conception means when a child is conception, it lasts from 0 to 9 months. This is a period of conception. Next is infancy or infant period. This goes from birth to 2 years of a child. Next is childhood. Childhood of anyone goes from 2 years to until the child gets mature. This is the childhood period. Again, this childhood is divided into certain levels. Next is adulthood. So this is the last stage of any human being. Adulthood goes from maturity to death. Now these two things, childhood and adulthood, they are divided into sub-classification like early childhood, middle childhood, late childhood. Similarly, adulthood is also categorized in early adulthood, middle adulthood, and late adulthood. Finally, we're not going very deep into it, so but this was the number or the years during which these stage of human being happens, right? Now, how China was able to alienate its poverty. Alienate means reduce or completely eradicate. So there are two conditions, like they had some effective governance. Along with that, they had few strategies on which they work for eradicating the poverty. Now, what are the economic transformations? So the effective governance, in governance, they were growing agriculture productivity. Now, how this agriculture productivity helps in sustaining the poverty? Now, if there is more production, the rate of the crops will reduce. So because of that, everyone will be able to get the food that is required. Next is incremental industrialization. So lots of factories, companies were built, and due to this, employment was increased and people buying capacity could increase. Next is managed urbanization and rural urban migration. We see in almost every country, if you follow our country, most of the people staying in villages, they tend to move in urban areas for employment. But if it is managed properly, so rural urban migration could be managed. Last is infrastructure. So lots of huge infrastructure were developed, like roads and railways, school, hospitals. These things were developed and people could utilize all those things. What were the strategies for poverty alleviation? Alleviation means reducing. So we have area-based poverty alleviation strategy. Like China is a very huge country. Like India is also a very huge country. Similarly, China is also a very huge country. And we know at different places, the number of people who are living in extreme poverty might be different. So according to area, different strategies were developed, and these strategies could be used for eradicating the poverty. Next is social protection policies. There were certain things, certain social protections that need to be provided to citizens of every country. So China provided all these social protection or social protection policies like schooling, hospital, these things, the basic needs of any human being or under the social protection policies. That's why they were able to successfully eradicate poverty. Next is targeted poverty alleviation strategy. So again, there are some areas, there are some people, there are some communities. So for them, specific targets were oriented, right? Now, if we see some images, so this is an image of world map, like people who are under extreme poverty condition. So what is extreme poverty condition? We have already seen the definition. Anyone who is not earning or who's earning less than $2.515 a day, they are under extreme poverty condition. So most of the population living under extreme poverty condition are found in Saharan countries, or you can say the African countries. You can see the map. So most of the population living under this condition are found in this area. Now, if we see the rate of increase, or you can see the reduction of poverty. So in most every country, the poverty rate has been continuously increasing from 1990 to 2019, exempting Middle East and North African countries. Now, what are the Middle East countries? You can see Middle East countries. These are the Middle East countries, and these are the North African countries. So except these two countries, all the countries are reducing their poverty level. In next image over here, it portrays how poverty rates are higher among children in every region. So why poverty rates in children or among children are higher? Because they are children, they're not adult and they're not working. So they're not getting all the nutrition or the money that is required for a good livelihood, right? So that's why more children are facing more poverty conditions. Next is what India can learn from China's approach to eradicate poverty. So first is effective governance. We have seen already over here in the image how China could use its economic governance, effective governance to reduce poverty. Similarly, India can follow a few of these and help to reduce poverty in our country. So effective governance, how it can help? So like decentralizing implementation arrangements with significant scope and local experiment. Now there are certain local areas, target-based approach can be done. All the governments can work on the basis of requirement. Next is promotion of higher degree of competition among states. Like there are certain governments, local governments we have in every state or every district we have some local government. So those districts should be competitive in nature. We can see in private sector, in any organization, may it be bank, school, hospital, if there is competitiveness, so the quality automatically increases. So here, if competitiveness would be there, some ranking kind of thing would be provided. So there's a poverty can be eradicated easily. There should be special investment on education and healthcare. So these are the basic necessities of every individual, every human on planet. If proper investment is being done on education and healthcare, again the reduction in poverty can be seen. Next is social protection policies. So whatever the social protection policies are required for any individual, schooling, healthcare, whatever things are required, if they are given properly, again poverty can be reduced. Area-based approach we already talked about, like there are few regions in which entire village might be poor. So those areas could be targeted and special protection or special attention can be given to those areas. And economic opportunities can be provided to every individual. If this thing is provided, their purchasing power will increase, and if they're able to purchase things, poverty will automatically go off. Next news, the online gaming market in India and proposed rule to regulate it. This is part of GS paper 2. What is the news? So over here, a task force was set by Ministry of Electronic and Information Technology, and they have prepared the final report and recommendation, whatever regulation are required for online gaming industry in India. We know online gaming in India is increasing day by day, and some regulation are very necessary for them to sustain. Now, what is the market of online gaming in India? Over here, we can see the market growth. It grew at compounded annual growth rate of 38% between 2017 to 2020. So during this period only, it has increased a lot. There are new user base in India. We know that in India, almost every individual are having a phone, mobile phone. They have an access to internet is also easy these days. So the percentage of new paying user are increasing. I'm not talking about the free game. There are certain games in which money is involved. So the number of paying users are being increasing every year. Like in 2020, it was 40%, and in 2050, it has increased up to 50%. Revenue generation. Now, the Indian mobile gaming industry is expected to reach $5 billion in 2025. So this is the revenue generation of online gaming. That means this market is very huge. That's why regulation is very much required over here. Task force. Now, there was a task force, as I've already told, that task force was set up by Ministry of Electronic and Information. So again, over here it is telling that recommendation and regulation for online industry gaming has to be prepared by this task force. There were some people over here involved. They had to provide the regulation. So they have given certain recommendation. Like the first recommendation given by this task force is that there should be a central law. Central law for what? There should be a central law for regulating all these games in the country. And why this is important, we'll talk about this later. But before that, what should be the regulation? So there should be a regulation. There are two types of game. What kind of game are there? Like one game you are playing by your skill, and the other games are which is done by chance. Like if you're doing any kind of betting game. So betting game, you don't have to have any skill. For betting game, you should be very lucky enough to win anything. And that is very rare. Most of the people lose their money in these kind of betting game. So these two games has to be categorized, and according to this categorized, the gaming format, compliances and informants, everything will be decided on the basis of that until the game is divided into type of games. Now, Indian IT Ministry, they would act as Central Ministry of Online Gaming. So this ministry, Indian IT Ministry, they will be responsible for all this classification of game, right? But the one point that they will not be monitoring is esports or electronic sports or game of chance. So these two things will not monitor by Indian IT Ministry. Now, the other recommendation, like legalization, we've already talked about, like there are many games which are involved money, like betting games and many more games which money is involved. So for those kind of gaming, regulations are important. Maybe the gaming online platform be domestic or foreign, like any companies which are making any game, their base could be in India as well as in foreign, doesn't matter. But they will be regarded as a reporting entity, and they have to report about all the monies that are being involved, because they will be reporting entities under Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002. We have already talked about money laundering in previous video. If you don't have any idea, please follow that video to see what money laundering is, and then you'll be properly understand why it is required. Now, what is the applicability of this legal framework? This legal framework should apply to both real money gaming and free games. Why this should be applied to both games? We know that real money, it can be dangerous in nature because people are losing their money and lots of things, lots of psychological problems are suffering from them. And free games, they are consuming lots of time, and sometimes they are even very harmful for kids. So regulation should be there over here, right? Dispute resolution. So we know that there are lots of issues faced by the companies who are making the game, or the government, or the people who are using those games. So there should be a dispute resolution mechanism. So a 3-tier dispute resolution mechanism similar to prescribed in the information technology rule has been made for 2021 online streaming services. So it should be for online gaming also. Currently we have the regulations for online streaming, but we don't have any regulations for online gaming, so it should be built similar to on the basis of this information technology rules 2021. Now, what is the need of central law? As I said, we'll be discussing about this later in this video. So we know that online gaming, it is a state subject. What do we mean by state and central subject? So there are certain subjects or certain things which is regulated by state or center, but in case of online gaming, it is a state subject, and state government find very much difficulty in enforcing any rules because of geo-blocking, and like certain apps and websites which are within the territory of the state, they're not able to block those. They don't have the rights of blocking these games or websites. That's why they are facing trouble. And apart from this, if any rule is passed by one state, they may not be applicable to other state. So again, there would be difference if people in one state are playing one game and in other state they are being banned from playing this game. So that would be a much issue of controversy, right? Apart from this, state government do not have enough blocking powers like central has. So there should be a central law so that proper regulation can be done and managed, right? So this was all about this topic. Moving to next topic. FOA report forecast spike in wood-based substitute to non-renewable. This is part of GS paper 3 environment and economics. Let's see what is there in news. In news we can see demand of wood products like mass timber, man-made cellulose fiber, which are used as non-renewable material. This will increase to 272 million cubic meter by 250. Don't get confused by this cubic meter. It just means the volume. Like if this is any substance, this is a wood we consider. So 1 and 1. So you can see volume is equal to LBH, length with height. So that is the cubic meter over here it is showing. By 2050, the volume of increase in wood material would increase to 272 million, right? A very important topic that can be seen over here is in developing countries, it will lead to creation of 1 million jobs. So this is a huge thing that can happen due to increase in production or use of these woods. There are certain findings which are mentioned over here, like the consumption of primary processed wood would increase to 3.1 billion cubic meter by 2050, and this is estimation based on global forest product model. So this is the model according to which this estimation or the report has been published. And there is one more type of wood, industrial roundwood. This type of wood's consumption will also be increased in future. What is this industrial roundwood? So the woods which are turned into round shape and they are used as poles. So use of these would also increase in future. What are the other major findings? In future, where it is mentioned that 33 million hectares of highly productive plantation forest will be required to meet the demand in 2050. We have already seen what are the demands, what are the increment of demands, like the wood use would increase up to 272 million cubic meter by 2050, 3.1 billion cubic meter by 2050. So these are the requirement, and for meeting these requirement, a huge plantation has to be done. And the investment that is required for this plantation would be 40 billion US dollar, right? And this would be for expansion of our IRW, industrial round wood production, and on annual basis there should be funding of 25 million USD dollar for protection of, or you can say for modernization and establishing all the industry which are related to these agriculture plantation and utilization of the product. And in 2050, the consumption of wood energy be concentrated in sub-Saharan Africa. Like these countries are still developing in South Asia, sub-Saharan Africa. So the consumption of this wood energy will still be there. And it will be concentrated. That means from the other countries, it would be eradicated, or you can say the most of the utilization would be done in these countries. And there are certain firewood wood, they would be also used as modern biomass to generate renewable energy apart from directly burning the woods. And in 2020, we have seen, according to global consumption of fuel wood, it was around 1.9 billion cubic meter, and in 2050 it is expected to increase by 11 to 42%, and it might reach 2.1 to 2.7 billion from 1.9 billion cubic meter, right? So this was finding of this report. Let's move to our next news. Rajasthan International Folk Festival returned to soothe soul scared by COVID blues. This is part of UGS paper 1. So we can see in news that Rajasthan International Folk Festival was organized at Mehergarh Fort in Jodhpur after 2 years because of COVID. We have seen that due to COVID-19, almost every public gathering has been cancelled, and they were not taking place during those years. But once the COVID pandemic was reduced or it was almost end, lots of public gathering which has been stopped are taking place again. So this is one of them, public gathering like Rajasthan International Folk Festival. What is special about this folk festival? So there was a mixture of performance of both Indian as well as international articles with diverse linguistic, racial and national background. So it's a collection of people from all over the world who present their art form over here. And during this year, around 250 artists from 7 Indian states and 8 foreign states showcased their talent. And what are those foreign countries? Mexico, Ireland, Wales, Netherlands, Mauritius, Brazil, Israel and Turkey. These are the 8 foreign countries around from where the artists came and showcased their talent in Rajasthan International Folk Festival. This year's key highlight is Citadel of Sun. This is Rajasthani Irish collaboration and it was commissioned by Jodhpur RIFF and Ireland Era Guilds Art Festival. This is newly commissioned music and was performed by two historic forts like Grarian and Eliach Fort in Ireland and Mehergarh. The event also featured by Turkey's Yordle Tokan. So these are a few famous things which are being done over here in this festival. What about the background? How did it started? So it was first organized in October 2007 as non-profit partnership between Jaipur Virasat Foundation and Mehergarh Museum Trust. And it coincides with Sharad Purnima. What is Sharad Purnima? So it is the brightest moon of the year. On this day, the brightest moon appears. Who is chief patron? He is H.H. Gaj Singh, who became the Maharaja of Jodhpur in 1952 and later he served as member of Indian Parliament of High Commissioner in India. So patron means the people who support in form of money to all the artists so that they can present their art in some or the other form. And finally, United Nations of Education, Scientific and Cultural Organization UNESCO recognized event as people's platform for creativity and sustainable development, right? So this was all about today's news. I hope you have understood every topic. If you have any doubt, you can write down in the comment box. Thank you for watching the video. At the end, I would ask you again to please like, share and subscribe Vedanta IAS Academy YouTube channel. See you tomorrow with new topics. Till then, goodbye.